Alrighty, so after taking a mini 2-day break, I am back doing video once again on my YouTube channel. And today I'm going to be doing my usual news of the week video that I always do on Wednesday. And by the way, I've been spending majority of my 2-day break looking for a new job. And that, since cases are started to go down here in California, I think this is pretty much the proper time to start looking for a new job and start to work again, because after all, I need to start making some money so I can potentially buy some of these jerseys that teams around MLS have been unveiling for their upcoming season. But most importantly, I need to start earning some money so I can save up to potentially go on a couple of these MLS road trip in the summer and start to visit some new MLS stadium in this summer, once hopefully some of these stadium are going to be opening up and the pandemic is started to be a little bit better and cases are started to drop as we head into the summer. But that being said, going back to this news of the week, and the first news we're going to talk about is actually the schedule. So I know a lot of people are eager of when exactly the schedule is going to be released. I'm one of those person that I hope that eventually the schedule is going to release soon, since we are only 1.5 months away from when the regular season is going to start on April 17th. But according to Steven Goff, who tweeted this out, saying that the MLS schedule most likely will not be released for another couple of weeks. And the reason why that is the case is because apparently the people that of course makes the schedule is still having a regular meeting to kind of discuss in terms of this pandemic situation and how they of course would schedule a team to play which opponent, and that are they going to stay with the regional kind of opponent that each team will face, just like what each team had to do last season once the MLS's back tournament is over. And then there's also the question about the Canadian team, and that I have heard rumors that most likely the Canadian team are going to first do what they did last season in phase 1, where they of course play against each other. But then after that, they will unfortunately will have to do the same thing, which is play in a neutral venue in the US, and they basically will face all the other team in a neutral venue in the States. But yeah, with all those complications, it's definitely taking a little bit longer than usual for the schedule to release. And I know there are people that is kind of frustrated the fact that the schedule might not be released until we're less than a month before the regular season. But remember, we're in a pandemic, and we're in a situation that prior to last year, I don't think anybody would have thought that this of course was going to be something we had to deal with, and thus that's why the schedule is taking longer than usual to be released. But once it is released, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of hype and a lot of people that is gonna hopefully circle the calendar to games that they're gonna be hoping to watch, but most importantly hoping to attend in their home stadium if the team that they support are allowed to have fans back into the stands. Now, Laurent Simon has officially become the new assistant head coach for Montreal, as today Montreal of course announced him as the new assistant head coach. And I'm happy to see that Simon finally gets a chance in terms of a coaching gig, because I thought during his latter part of his career with TFC, I feel like this was a guy that definitely have a chance to potentially pursue a coaching career. And although he's not I don't think he's ready to potentially pursue a head coaching gig, I think an assistant coach is a good start to his coaching career, and especially for the fact that I heard he has a good relationship with Thierry Henry. I think this, of course, will work out for him working alongside with him. And speaking of Thierry Henry, I have heard reports saying that most likely Thierry Henry is actually going to be staying with Montreal, as Bournemouth actually have recently hired a short-term interim head coach to kind of fill their vacant spot. And most likely this means that Thierry Henry is indeed not going to be going to Bournemouth, and he's going to be staying with Montreal. So I'm not quite sure if Montreal fans are happy about that or not. I mean, I guess they'll probably be happy, because at least they don't have to worry about the situation with their team potentially have to find a head coach with just a couple of weeks before preseason start. But it'll be very interesting to see how Thierry Henry is going to do in this upcoming season, and also will be even more interesting to see how Laurent Simon is going to do as an assistant head coach, and maybe if he does well in his position, he could potentially get a head coaching gig either in MLS or somewhere else in the future. Now, Inter Miami have signed defensive midfielder Gregore from a Brazilian Serie A team, which I actually decided not to put that team name because it was actually pretty hard to pronounce. But what's interesting about this signing is that the Seattle Sounders was actually thinking about getting this guy last season, and that back then when Chris Henderson was still the Sounders GM, he was actually looking to try to get this guy from the Sounders, but unfortunately they couldn't get the deal done because it was just way too expensive, and then they decided to go with João Paulo as kind of like the alternative option and the least expensive option. Well, 1 year later, Chris Henderson obviously become the new GM of Inter Miami, and it seemed like he wants to once again hope to choose the first option that he originally had with this Seattle Sounders to bring this guy to MLS, and this time indeed he was able to achieve that. And what's even more surprising about this deal, and probably this deal that made Inter Miami fans going to be very happy about, is the fact that he's not going to be a DP player. They were able to sign him on a high TAM contract, and that for the amount of money that originally the Sounders was trying to get him, it looked like for sure that he was going to be on a DP contract, and even the amount of money that Inter Miami offered to get him, it looked like for sure he was going to be a DP player. But for whatever reason, they were able to get him onto a TAM contract, which is not the first time that we've seen Inter Miami somehow in some way is able to sign a player that for sure is going to be a DP level of player, and yet somehow in some way they were able to get him just under a TAM contract. So yeah, I think this is a good signing for Inter Miami, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not if he is going to be battling with Matt Tweedy in terms of that holding midfielder spot, or maybe if Phil Neville decided to play two holding midfielder, maybe he's going to be partnered with Matt Tweedy in terms of that spot. And if that's the case, that could be a decent defensive midfielder for a partnership, depending on if Matt Tweedy can have a bounce back year and can at least show signs of his time with Juventus, where he was just such a great defensive midfielder player, and probably regarded as one of the best defensive midfielder in the world. Now, Orlando City has officially signed Dutch winger Sylvester van de Water, and I'm actually glad that Orlando City did make that signing, because I did mention last News of the Week episode that I really hope they sign him because he has such a badass name. But it seemed like now the Orlando fans are happy they were able to sign him, because it seemed like now their team is made up of kind of a awkward theme kind of starting 11. I mean, when they got Alexandre Pato, with Pato, his nickname being the Duck, and also their goalkeeper Pedro Galese, his nickname that is El Pulpo, which is the octopus in Spanish. It seemed like it has a very awkward marine kind of theme in terms of that starting 11. But in terms of this signing itself, again, this is going to be some good depth in terms of Orlando City in terms of the winger position. I heard some people say that he could potentially be a replacement for Nani, knowing the fact that Nani is going to be 35 or 36 heading into this upcoming season, and most likely he might have 1 or 2 years left before he might think about hanging up his boots. It will be interesting to see whether or not if Van de Water is going to be that replacement, and again, most likely he's still going to just be used as a depth piece for this Orlando City side in the winger position. Now, Toronto FC have re-signed Justin Morrow and Eric Zavaleta, and I believe they signed both of these guys to a 1-year contract. Obviously, this is a no-brainer, knowing the fact that Justin Morrow has been with TFC for a very long time, and they want to bring his veteran presence. Although I'm kind of surprised they decided to bring back Zavaleta, because I know there was a lot of TFC fans that was very frustrated when they see Zavaleta play for this team last season, and whenever he is in the squad. Like, I even hear some TFC fans jokingly saying that, oh, every time when Zavaleta is in our starting 11, you basically just got yourself free points because he basically is a terrible defender. But that being said, maybe TFC wants to bring him back so that they can of course use that as a def piece, and that I don't think I don't mind that they decided to bring a player back that, even if they're not kind of starting quality kind of player and might not be a decent kind of defender, as long as you of course have him as a def piece, or maybe even in the lower part of the depth chart, it is always good to basically try to sign the player rather than maybe go out to look for unknown defender to replace him. Now, moving on in terms of the next news, and unfortunately, I got some more bad news for you Seattle Sounders fan. Jordan Morris, who, when we saw how he was carted off last week in that game that he was playing with Swansea City, everybody thought that it was going to be a torn ACL that he suffered. Well, it turns out it was indeed a torn ACL, and now he's going to be undergoing surgery to repair that, and most likely he is not going to be returning to play, at the very least, probably in October or even in November, or even he's pretty much done for the season. And as I said before, this is kind of the worst case scenario if you're the Seattle Sounders, where you decide to loan Jordan Morris to Swansea City, and you hope that you can maybe either get him back if he doesn't work out with Swansea City, or the fact that you can get a good sum of money to sell him off if Swansea City decide to trigger the option to buy. But now, most likely, I don't think Swansea is going to trigger that option to buy, maybe loan him back to Seattle because of this injury. And even though the Sounders are going to get Jordan Morris back once that loan is over, he still, of course, is not going to be available because of this torn ACL. And overall, this is definitely tough luck for the Sounders, but even tougher luck for Jordan Morris, where this his chance of potentially playing in Europe, and that he finally got his dream move to play for a European club, and then literally 5 matches later, he's now looked like his career of playing in Europe is going to be ripped to shit because of this injury. And I really wish Jordan Morris a speedy recovery, and hope that he's gonna be coming back strong once he is recovered from this torn ACL. Now, from one lethal striker in MLS to talk about one, if not the most lethal striker right now in the world of soccer, and that, of course, is Robert Lewandowski. And this seems like it's your annual kind of MLS report of this big name European superstar player that says that in a couple of years, I, of course, are going to be playing in MLS because that seems like that is the case for a lot of these big name European star player, that once they finish their career in Europe, they go straight to MLS. And it's the same case with Lewandowski, that says that he would be open for a move to MLS after his career with Bayern Munich is over. And by the way, he's going to remain as a Bayern player until 2022, and I believe there's even an option for 2023. So any chance of Lewandowski potentially coming to MLS is most likely not going to happen at the very earliest in 2023. And there has also reports saying that his wife has been mentioning that if he does come to MLS, LA would be the destination that he want his husband to go. So there could be a case where he could be a future Galaxy or LAFC player. But that being said, as I always talk about these reports about big name player potentially coming to MLS to finish their career and pretty much in their twilight of their career, we'll see whether or not if that is going to be the case. I mean, I will never really believe these talks about them saying that they're going to be coming to MLS unless if there's legitimate rumors that these players could potentially go, because 2 to 3 years is a very long time. I mean, things could definitely change in these 2 to 3 years. I mean, what if Lewandowski continue to score at the rate that he is? There's no way in the world Bayern Munich is going to let him go and decide to sign him in an extension, and if he is going to pretty much stay with Bayern for his entire career, I wouldn't be surprised that he might even reconsider just pretty much retiring his career in Germany instead of maybe going to MLS to finish his career. But again, this is just your annual kind of reports, and kind of a reports coming out of MLS to trying to kind of hype some of their fans, saying that one of the big name player is potentially coming to MLS, but that move might not happen for 2 to 3 years. And it's no surprise that, I said in the last News of the Week episode how, the whole Messi rumor, and that he could potentially coming to NYCFC if he does sign with Man City. Well, I can't wait until that, of course, happen, and that once he does sign with Man City, MLS is going to treat like they of course just sign that player, knowing the fact that he has that clause to go to NYCFC, and there's going to be like a 2-year non-stop marketing kind of campaign saying that Messi is coming to MLS, and that they're and that I just feel like it's gonna be maybe a little bit cringy to say that they're going to really start hyping that Messi is going to be coming to MLS, even though he's probably not going to be coming into the league at least for another two season. Now, moving on, in terms of the next news, is Atlanta United is report to sign Lautaro Giannetti from Vélez Sarsfield, although this is technically not really a report, because I actually heard that Atlanta is set to sign this guy and pretty much continue to add the long list of Argentine player that seems to be coming to Atlanta this offseason. Like, I can understand why there's some people are saying Atlanta is all of a sudden becoming the Argentine U23 team because of how many Argentine is in this team, and some even question how in the world do they have that much international spot with how many Argentine that they have signed this off season. I mean, I don't know how they of course could do it, but this is also clearly a sign where, this off season Atlanta just saw how bad they did last year, and that knowing the fact that they are kind of in a transitional period, they basically are saying that we got to make sure that we need to sign all these Argentine so that they can of course make our team better, because I'm pretty sure Atlanta is not going to be as bad as next season. This is a franchise that, unlike many of these franchises in MLS, they don't really want to be a team that's going to be stuck in mediocrity or stuck to be one of the worst team in the league, and that they want to be as ambitious as possible, of course, signing all of these players. Now, that being said, signing all these Argentine players, is it going to work out for Atlanta this coming season? We shall see. I mean, and I think when I do a video talking about the biggest concern that I have with each MLS team in these upcoming weeks leading into the regular season, I'll definitely talk about Atlanta, and the biggest concern is, with all these new pieces that they have, how long is it going to take for all of them to kind of gel together so that they can, of course, get going and become once again an MLS Cup contender out of the Eastern Conference. Now, Minnesota and one of the New York team have just joined Toronto FC in pursuit for River Plate for Rafael Santos Borja, and I have a feeling most likely one of the New York teams out that could potentially be NYCFC, although at the same time I think it could be both New York team, because both New York team looking to try to get a forward. But what's interesting when I saw this headline is that Minnesota looks like is going to be one of the team that is going to try to get this guy, and that if the Loons are able to acquire this guy, man, I can imagine the Reynoso and Bort kind of partnership and how good that would be, with two very talented South American players linking up to each other, and that this would be just so much better of an option compared to that Rennes striker that we've been linked with for the past couple of weeks, and that there haven't really been any other reports because of it. But that being said, if Minnesota is going to try to sign this guy, there's no doubt that they're going to have to pay twice as amount they did with Reynoso, and maybe have to pay just a record transfer fee, about 10 to 15 million, in able to acquire him, because as I mentioned in my last News of the Week episode, this was a guy that was also linked with Palmeiras. And anytime when there's a player in South America that is linked with a really good team and a well-known team like Palmeiras in South America, yeah, expect to pay a heavy penny. And that, I also kind of mentioned how Toronto, if they are able to try to get him and maybe acquire him as a replacement for Josie Altidore, they're going to have to spend Pozuelo type of money and potentially spend $10 to $15 million to acquire him. And I think that's going to be the same case for both Minnesota and one of these New York teams that is either NYCFC or the Red Bulls. Now, the Columbus Crew has reported to sign Marlon Hairston off of free agency, and it seemed like the Crew and Minnesota seems to have a partnership this offseason where, if you are able to sign one of our player, we also want to sign one of your player too. I mean, there's just been so many trade that is involved Minnesota and Columbus this offseason that you'd be mistaken the fact that both of these teams must have really like each other with some of the acquisition that they have made. But all kidding aside, getting Marlon Hairston for Columbus will definitely add some depth in terms of their defense, and especially in the fullback position. I thought Marlon Hairston with the Loons, he was a decent utility piece and also a decent player or a player that was versatile to play in many different position that is needed. So I think the Crew definitely got a decent player, and also add more depth of what already looked like a very stacked team heading into next season as they're looking to defend their MLS Cup champion. FC Dallas have linked with Hungarian Young International, and I'm not even going to attempt to try to say his name, because anytime know me, whenever I try to pronounce names that is in the Baltic country, or the trying to pronounce name in the Baltic region of the area, I do a terrible job in terms of that. But yeah, this is a guy that is actually also a winger, and that this is not surprising that FC Dallas is looking to try to sign winger, because they definitely lost a lot of depth in terms of that winger position. They lost Barrios and Mosquera doing this off season, and they've been desperate in terms of trying to acquire anyone that can play in that winger spot, so that they can of course replace those guys that they lost doing this off season. Now, I don't know if this guy is going to be just as a quality player as Michael Barrios and Santiago Mosquera in that spot, but we shall see whether or not if he can of course do that once he potentially is going to be signed with FC Dallas. The Vancouver Whitecaps is linked with Sporting CP right back Bruno Gaspard. Now, this is a guy that the Whitecaps are looking to try to get a loan on, and the loan also has a purchase option of $1.5 million. So if the Whitecaps like what they got from Bruno Gaspard off of that loan, they can of course sign him for only $1.5 million, which that seems a pretty bargain price in terms of the fullback position. And I know there are also some Whitecaps fans are kind of frustrated seeing this rumor, and kind of frustrated the fact that it seemed like this ownership only cares about signing defender, and especially signing fullback position. Well, here's the thing. A lot of people don't know that getting decent fullback in MLS is definitely one of the toughest thing to do, and that we have just so many teams that always have problem in terms of trying to get a decent fullback, even for a low amount of money. And while I don't know much about this guy and whether or not if he can of course fit well with Vancouver, if he does join this team on loan, and if he does do very well, that $1.5 million that they paid is actually going to be a really good bargain in terms of the fullback position. And also, when you get a fullback, he could also be a guy that can maybe be a starter for a team, or even maybe be a depth piece in terms of that fullback position. And when you are able to get depth in terms of the fullback position, then yeah, that is something. You're pretty much in a rare company of MLS teams that is able to get some depth in terms of that position, because there's a lot of teams that aren't able to find some quality fullbacks in terms of that spot, and not a lot of team also have depth in terms of that position. So yeah, we shall see whether or not if they are going to potentially sign him. But moving on in terms of the next news, and now kind of moving away from transfer reports, involving the LA Galaxy and the Portland Timbers unveiling their new jersey that they just announced a couple of days ago. And I'm actually reaching my phone right now because I want to show you guys the jerseys that the Galaxy have just unveiled. And unsurprisingly, it's the one that I thought that they were going to release for this upcoming season, because I saw this as a leak a couple of weeks ago. And this is the jersey that they, of course, are going to be unveiling. And honestly, I'm definitely going to buy this jersey. I mean, it's a jersey that the Galaxy used to wear during their early late 2000, and it seems like they're going with a retro kind of away jersey. And I honestly love how teams are looking to trying to bring back their retro jersey, or kind of their retro look in either their primary kit or their secondary kit. And in this case for the Galaxy, it's going to be a secondary kit. And just, the stripes, and also the stripes and the green and black color kind of really reminds me a little bit of Austin FC jersey, but the green is kind of a little bit lighter than the darker green that Austin FC has had. And also, I just realized that they're even this little gold kind of stripe in between the green and black that is between the stripes. So yeah, again, this is a jersey that I definitely would want to buy, and it just looks like a very awesome retro kind of jerseys that the Galaxy is going to release. Now, the Portland Timbers jersey, let me just show you this right now. So this is going to be the new Portland Timbers jersey right here. And I know there's a lot of Timbers fans that are not happy about this jersey, and they said this is one of the worst primary kit that they, of course, had. When I look at this, it kind of reminds me a little bit of FC Cincinnati jersey from last season, where FC Cincinnati decided to have like one half of their jersey being their team color, and then the other half they also decided to put their team color in their primary kit, but just kind of made a little bit of a darker shade of blue. And it seemed like in this case, with the Timbers, they kind of did the exact same thing, where half of the jersey is pretty much their usual green team color, and then the other half is also their usual green team color, but they just add a darker shade of green into that. And while the one that I saw with FC Cincinnati kind of works out with the blue color, I just don't think it kind of works out with the green color. And I can kind of understand why Timbers fans are saying that this is one of the worst primary kit that they of course had. But that being said, one thing that I also will say that is a little bit different compared to FC Cincinnati jersey from last season is that right here in the middle there seems to be, oh god, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, so there's kind of like a little pointy arrow right here in the middle, and I'm not quite sure, is that kind of like stitches that is kind of stitched between the green and the dark green shape between, or the fact that that's just a replication of part of the logo, which obviously if you see the axe here in the logo, there's like these lines which kind of represent the Cascadia Mountain. I wonder if that's kind of also a representation between those kind of stitch like kind of thing right here, right in the middle of the jersey. But either way, it's definitely a jersey that, even though it's not one of the best, I don't think it's that terrible. And I have seen worse jerseys that Adidas have definitely released throughout these past couple of years. But at the same time, when I also just saw the LA Galaxy jersey that they've released, it seems like Adidas is started to do a little bit better job in terms of releasing their jerseys, and actually not just kind of be lazy and kind of just do what they did with the DC United and RSL jersey, which is just a plain white jersey with the only color being the sponsor kit that is in the middle of their jersey. Now, moving on into the last news on this news of the week is that both Ohio club have released their season ticket prices for this upcoming season. So both FC Cincinnati and Columbus, who coincidentally both of them are actually opening up their new stadium this upcoming season, have released their season ticket prices. And no, those season ticket prices is not going to include personal seat license, which I'm pretty sure for both Ohio team can take a huge sigh of relief because of that. But overall, when I look at the prices, and especially for FC Cincinnati, where they actually unveiled the full prices of every section in that new stadium that they're going to be playing, yeah, it's relatively cheap in terms of the prices for a new stadium. Like, I usually see teams when they do move into a new dig, they usually raise up the price like twice as much more expensive than the old dig that they used to play. But for FC Cincinnati, although it is a little bit more expensive compared to when they were playing at Nippar Stadium, it's still not as expensive as I would have thought that they of course would do. And kudos to them to kind of decided to do that and actually kind of care about their supporters by not just overcharging them just because they're moving into that brand new stadium. And for Columbus, it's also kind of the same case, although they are saying that the general section of their new stadium is going to start at $650, which is kind of a little bit expensive for general section, but at the same time, they're the defending MLS Cup champion, and when you're the defending MLS Cup champion, you have such a good team, and you're opening up a new stadium, yeah, those prices, of course, are going to rise up. And I guess, both of these clubs can maybe serve an example to Charlotte of what you can actually do when you try to open up a new stadium and actually not overcharging your fans and asking them to purchase PSL before you can even buy season ticket. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for this news of the week. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all these news as always, and hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.